Foreign Secretary Philip Hammond there. Now, there are reports this morning, though, of deepening divisions within the Conservative Party about Europe. The Sunday Times has a warning that David Cameron could face a leadership challenge if the so-called blue-on-blue attacks do not stop. It's after what's been seen as a thinly veiled attack on the Mayor of London, Boris Johnson, in the House of Commons last week. Well, I'm joined now by the Business Minister, Anna Soubry. She's in Nottingham. And a very good morning to you, Anna Soubry. I mean, are you saying, oh dear, it's all turning a bit nasty now?
No, I'm saying, oh dear, this is so boring for ordinary viewers who are not interested in this media bubble, mainly centred in Westminster. Out here in the real world, people want to know the issues. They want to know why we are going to be safer, stronger and better off in Europe. And equally, they want to know what it looks like if they were to vote. And of course, it's about the individual votes that will be cast on June the 24th, what it will look like if we were to leave the EU. That's what people want to know about, not this media bubble. It's dreadful, Dermot.
Ah, the media bubble argument. Don't you think they want to know, though, who's going to be Justice Secretary, that Michael Gove might be sacked for campaigning on the other side? Well, they do want to know, because we had a general election under a year ago.
I'm not being... Right, let's get a few things straight, right? The media got the result of the general election spectacularly wrong. The reason they got it wrong was because they sat in comfortable studios and they listened to media commentators, and that was, forgive me, but that's lazy journalism. Get out into the real world. Listen to what real people are saying. That's where I was on Friday, for example. I was out in my constituency with a group of Lib Dems, Greens, Labour, all of us on the doorstep talking to real people about why we believe we should stay in the EU. They weren't remotely interested in the machinations as perceived by the media about the Conservative Party.
OK,
this is
so
not
just,
about the Conservative
listen, we just have
Party.
to clear this
it's
up.
About
You're
the
saying
future
it's
of
a
our
media...
country, and it's really important
Minister,
we have that
I just
debate.
want to clear this up. You're saying it's a media invention. It's a media invention that the media are making it up, that there are considerations that ministers who campaign on the Leave side of it may well be reshuffled after the referendum. Now, that is something people do want to know, what the makeup of the government is going to be.
They
really don't care, do they? Who's in charge?
No, they absolutely want to know what the arguments are for staying in and what the arguments are for staying out. That's what people want to know. And it's easy for journalists to sit and have all these machinations, talk about all these personalities. Out here in the real world, that is what turns people off politics. They don't like personality-led politics. They want to know the arguments. So please, ask me the question, challenge me, have me up with a good, strong debate with somebody who doesn't believe in it and all the rest of it. Don't let's just get boring about personalities. That's not what it's about.
Well, you mentioned, you mentioned and I've mentioned as well, the general election. Well, the core plank of the general election, we have to revisit that, having said that people don't care who's in charge. What was one of the main planks of the Conservative campaign was that our leader, David Cameron, is better than the then Labour leader. That was all about personality, wasn't it?
No, it wasn't actually. It was because it was about the policies, the politics of those people. Yes, there are issues and times when, of course, people will look at whether somebody has the qualities of a Prime Minister in terms, for example, of leadership. And obviously that debate will come in 2020. But here, now, in the real world, people want to know why I believe so passionately that we are better off, stronger and safer remaining in the EU, and that's the debate I want to have. That's what people tell me, and I think that is the way we should now look at all of this. Otherwise, people are just going to be turned off in their droves. They don't know the issues, and that's because at the moment politicians aren't being able to have the debate.
Let me put one of the issues to you.
Absolutely brilliant. Go on.
Let me put them to you, because doesn't this turn people off? The fact that your side is over egging the doom mongering, the so-called Project Fear. Today we've been told, we're hearing from the Europe Minister, that we face decades in economic limbo if we leave the European Union. The Chancellor's been talking with the G20 and the Chinese come up with the whole world economy is threatened by the UK leaving the EU. You're overdoing that, aren't you, the scaremongering?
Well, actually, I don't think it is. I think there is a really valid debate to be had about what does it look like if people were to vote in this referendum to leave the EU. And I mean, when I looked into this in Article 50 and what that then means, the procedure that is then triggered off, it would take at least 2 years to get out of the EU. And of course, in that 2 years, we would see chaos. Look, last week, When some people decided that they were going to be in favour of us leaving the EU, we saw that the value of the pound plummeted. We also know that Moody's, a very important agency, has said that our credit rating would go down if we were to leave the EU. So that's not the views of just politicians. These are the views of the markets. These are the views of organisations that know what they're talking about. Sorry, I couldn't hear you.
There are economists who say that the pound falling is a good thing. We can export more. You know, where's this economic limbo coming from?
But I think if you look at what would actually happen if we were to leave the EU, there would be at least 2 years where we have to disentangle ourselves. And what business says to me is that uncertainty is the thing that they dread the most. They need certainty to do business. And unfortunately, 2 years of uncertainty would really harm British business. But in any event, I make a strong positive case for us remaining in the EU. It has huge benefits for people. Not just my generation, but of course my children and my grandchildren. It has delivered growth and prosperity and jobs. 500 million people over the channel that we trade with, 40% up to 50% of our exports going into that single market. That's where our future lies, as well, of course, as all the other trade agreements that we reach with other countries where we want to do business. But primarily, staying in the EU has provided us with growth and prosperity and will continue to do so, especially as it's reforming itself. I mean, I actually believe that Cameron has caught this wind of change that's beginning to blow across the EU. And I think we're going to drive that.
Yeah, I just want to squeeze in a last question that even you can't accuse the media of making up, and this from the Cabinet Secretary, Sir Jeremy Haywood, banning ministers from access to civil servants and their research if they want to make their arguments to leave. That's not hardly fair, is it?
You know, I'm really sorry to upset you about this, but actually I genuinely don't know anything about that, because it's something that's not come my way at all. And I'm sure that Sir Jeremy, who after all is completely independent,
you're in government?
And the leading member. Hang on a moment.
You haven't heard about it?
Be cheeky enough.
Everyone's heard about it.
I hadn't heard about it. I've read it. Actually, you see, that just proves my point. Everybody in the real world genuinely hasn't heard about it. This is media bubble. But look, if this is an important issue, and I'm not saying that it isn't, then of course Sir Jeremy will make sure that the right thing is done. That's what I would say about it. But it's just something that's not come my way, I promise you. So that's all I would have to say, because I trust Sir Jeremy Haywood. He's our leading civil servant. He's completely independent and he's extremely good. He'll do the right thing.
OK, well, Anna Soubry, good to talk to you. Of course, no one cares who's doing the job. So, Business Minister for the time being. Who knows who you'll let have a go later on. That's what you said. Thank you very much indeed.